So I'm really nervous. This is not my gig. I just like to be at school doing my thing with our 310 kids and the fantastic staff that I work with every day. When Ro asked me if I would come and speak, it was like, why me? I don't know. We just do what we do. And it's really hard to know what you do when you've got a culture and the culture's embedded in the work that you do every day. I really felt that there would be somebody better than me, and I just had to give myself a stern talking to. And when Ro asked me for a bio, it's like, I've never written a bio before. I don't even know what. There's nothing special about me. I'm just Darrelyn, who, you know, works at Cockatoo Primary School. But anyway, I think I would have been the last one that got there. But no, I wasn't. Oh, that's okay. Anyway, so here goes. I think I've had 20 nervous wheeze, and that's only since lunchtime. So from my first year of teaching back in 1975, I told you I was an old boiler, I always felt that we didn't have it right, because my heart always was breaking for the student who just wasn't achieving, who just sat there with that blank look on their face, and I can reel off a name like Lisa Tainton in my first year just got to me because she just didn't get anything that I was saying. And then there were the kids at the other end who didn't have challenge and were bored, and they were the mischief makers, particularly the boys. They were the ones that gave you a run for their money. And what I was told to do coming out, well, I didn't go to uni, there was no uni back then, it was Teachers College, was teach to the middle. So just pitch to the middle and everybody else will be right. And it didn't sit with me. So I sought other courses to do, and I did a grad dip in special ed. This is all in my first few years of teaching, and then I backed that up with a B.Ed in linguistics and remediation, because I just wanted to seek more knowledge as to how I could help all of these students who sat either end of the middle, because teaching to the middle was just not the thing. So after I graduated from both those courses, it was like I was lucky enough. I was tapped on the shoulder for my first leadership role, and it was from then my leadership journey started, and I realised that as leaders we can make a huge difference to the work that we do. We can affect such massive change in the school in which we are. We lead by example. We have to be very clear in our expectations. We have to use positive language. We really have to set the tone for others to follow. We have to be firm in our beliefs, and sometimes we have to make the hard decisions. Early on in my time as principal, there was a young graduate student teacher who would come into the staff room, and she would sit there and she would mimic two students that she had in her grade. One was a little one with ASD, another one was a student with a severe speech impediment, and she would pretend that she was either of those students. And you're shaking your head, and it appalled me. We had a big discussion around what the staff room should look like, what our behaviour in the staff room as professionals, but she just didn't get it. Her excuse was, and you know, every one of you sitting here who is an educator and works in schools would have heard kids say this, but I was only joking. So the hard call was made, contract not renewed. Why wasn't my contract renewed? She said, because you're not the best fit for our school. You're not what we're looking for. And I think that was the first change that we made. And this is going back a long time. I think I've been principal for, 26 years. So it's a long time ago. But that was the first thing that resonates with me. I inherited a very experienced staff as a principal, and they had lots of embedded practices that were not good practices. We know that the very, very, very first thing that we should be doing is building a relationship with all of our kids, and we should be warm and caring towards them. That builds a foundation. So one of our experienced teachers used to greet her students every day and thought she was doing a great job. She would stand at the entrance to the doorway and she would go, good morning, good morning, good morning. So everybody felt very welcome in her grade. She just did not get it. She didn't understand what she was projecting to the kids. I don't give a rat's about you. That's what she was really saying. So I was very calculating, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'd moved her to a grade 2, which was a real confrontation for her, and she retired the next year. I thought that might happen. Sometimes you've just got to navigate your way around. From then we started to look at who we would employ. And we've only made a few mistakes, but we tend to look for people who have warmth during the interview. I don't mind if they can tell me, hang on a minute, start again, Darrelyn. I don't care if they can tell me what E5 was or what, I don't know, I can't think now, I'm too nervous, but any of those, high-performing questions that you ask and you're looking for the answer, we can learn that. You can't learn how to build a relationship with kids, building that rapport. That's intrinsic, that comes naturally. That's my belief. So that's what we look for in who we employ. And fortunately, whether or not, they say as a leader you often employ people like yourself, maybe, that's sad. A school full of Darrelyns. I've got 3 staff members over there with me, so a school full of Darrelyns. But I'm very firm on what I look for when we're employing. And that really helped us to affect change in bringing on board new staff members. When we talk about our kids in our school community, we use positive language. We look at a strength-based model, not a deficit model, and that is so important. The focus isn't on the disability, but it's on what can be achieved. It's on the kids' interests, their personality traits, their learning strengths, and what can be achieved across all areas of education. And this understanding enables learning challenge to be embedded and successful for everybody. Monash University's 6 high-impact wellbeing strategies. There's quite a few people who don't know about that document. Search it out. It's really good. Very strict educational model. They stress that the key ingredient to building a sense of belonging is the relationship building, as I said earlier. It's essential to provide opportunities for the kids to connect with each other, the adults in the school, and I talk about all adults in the school, the parent community as well as the teaching community. It's basic. If somebody knows your name, immediately you feel valued and you develop a connectedness to that person. And another layer of knowing their interests, or if you've noticed if they've been absent, relationships are nurtured and strengthened. It's very powerful when teachers and leaders know the names of, I've just said that. After a student absence, staff welcome students with the words, "Where have you been? We've missed you." And that sense of belonging is enhanced once again. Within our school, when somebody's been away, they're welcomed back. When grades have everybody at school on time, the whole grade gets a chocolate frog. So they have great delight in letting us know that everybody's there. And we're sending a message to our kids that we value your presence at school. To build further understanding of students' needs across the school, there's a sharing of information under an agendaed item once a week at our Monday morning briefing under child safety. And during that time, it doesn't come just from me, it might come from any staff member who's aware that a student in their grade might be having an issue. It could be an issue in the playground, it could be a separation of parents, it could be just the death of a pet, just anybody who just needs arms wrapped around them for a little bit of time being given to them and showing that we care about them and whatever their issue is so that we can support them through that. Irrespective of whether a student has a disability or not, students deemed at risk in our school, at risk of disengagement, or they might just have an emotional fragility, they're assigned a mentor, a staff mentor, who their role is to be the good cop in their lives. And it could be somebody in the office, it could be somebody in leadership, classroom teachers, not their classroom teacher, but their job is to connect with that student on a regular basis and provide them with some positive input into their lives. Because we all know that if you've got a connection to another strong adult in your life, it is really a powerful thing in building confidence and a real sense of belonging. We discuss the list of at-risk students at the beginning of every year. Sometimes the same mentor and student are matched. Sometimes the kids graduate off the list. It's like, no, they're doing really well. We don't need them to be individually supported, but we do keep them under the eye of the wellbeing team. So this makes sure that these students have a sense of belonging, connectedness to school, and their confidence builds enormously as a result. Just as the sharing of student information with staff really helps build an understanding of why a student behaves in a certain way or how educators can best support a student, the same holds true for students. We believe that when students understand the reasons for differences, then compassion, empathy and inclusion is built. With parent permission, relevant information is shared with students. In the past, we've had parents lead the discussion. Sometimes we call on allied health professionals or other staff members who know the student really well. They will present an information session to the students at our school. One time when one of our parents was speaking about her daughter Charlotte, who has Down syndrome, she started off by sharing the list of everything that her daughter loved. She loved Barbies, music, dancing, babies and her friends. And she loved to listen to fairy stories. Her strengths were she gave the best hug, she was happy, she was smart, empathetic and just loves to help out. Her mother also shared what didn't work for Charlotte. Don't use a loud voice. Charlotte won't like that. And following this introduction, Charlotte's mother then explained Down syndrome to the other students. There were so many light bulb moments in the kids as they began to understand that it's not the disability that defines a person. They understood how to navigate their way around individual differences while at the same time appreciating that everybody has strengths. These behaviours help to build an inclusive practice and develop a culture of inclusiveness. As part of the handover process, prior to Charlotte enrolling at our school, an ES staff member, Charlotte's proposed teacher, and I went to visit the school at which she was currently enrolled. Charlotte was treated separately to the rest of the grade. She spent her time in the corner whilst the rest of the grade had a morning meeting. Charlotte was just doing her own thing. She didn't feel connected to the rest of the grade. She didn't even know one student's name. And that was just so sad. We got into the car on our way back up the hill to Cockatoo and just bucket dumped as to how it shouldn't be. It wasn't even going to be. There was nothing we could pick up that we thought we will take that back and put into practice at our school. For us, it was just definitely not the Cockatoo way. About 16 years ago, we enrolled a young boy called Sam. Sam was in his prep class, I'm travelling for the ground. Sam was in his prep grade and his mother came over. It was about the third or fourth day that Sam had started school. And his mother had with her a little boy who was about 18 months of age. And she sat him on the counter and she was talking to the office staff and I could overhear the conversation. She was full of praise as to how well Sam had adjusted at school, but I could hear in her voice a real anxiety and a real worry because she said, I just don't know what I'm going to do with this one here, I don't know who will have him. And she was talking about her 18-month-old son, Josh, who had Down syndrome. I was listening in, a bit of a, like to know what's going on, a bit of a troll freak. So I leapt up from my desk and just said, I'll have him. And I thought, I didn't know whether or not we'd get the gig, because in my mind, parents choose the school. But she said to me years later, she knew from that moment on that this was going to be the school for her son. When Josh did enrol in prep as speech therapist, he was dual enrolled. He was spent some time in a special school, and then fortunately we had him for 3 days. They only got him 2, and told him I was a control freak. And a speech therapist from the SDS came and visited us, and she said, don't worry about him, he'll never be verbal. So she walked out. We went, watch us. You never say never at our school. We're very competitive and we like to show that things can be done. Josh developed an ever-increasing set of words which he used with his family, with his teachers and his friends. On our grade 6 graduation night, Josh was surprised with a Principal's Award. He almost ran to the podium to deliver his acceptance speech. There wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. That was a little boy who would never speak. As educators, we have aspirations for all of our students. Students with a disability should have aspirations and goals and be equally provided with as many opportunities to develop and scaffold their personal skill sets. This is inclusiveness. Middle leaders at our school are a critical element to the success of every aspect of life at Cockatoo. Building their capacity to confidently model inclusive practices within their teams is another step to building a strong culture of inclusiveness. The junior, middle and senior learning centres are led by a middle leader, and each team, they have a weekly dedicated planning time which starts at 2 o'clock. This is in addition to a planning day once a term where teachers develop a plan, a terms plan of what they're going to teach. Weekly planning sessions are devoted to how they're going to teach the what, how it's going to be delivered. Planning activities is guided by every student's entry point to learning. Every teacher is responsible for having their students' entry point to learning recorded on a document that we have, which is a continuum of curriculum descriptors represented as ICANN statements. During weekly planning sessions, teachers refer to the document to ensure they're planning differentiated activities to cater for the breadth of student ability within their grade. If there are students at either end of the continuum outside of that middle, then their names are individually documented to make sure that no student falls through the cracks and that they are actually catered for to reach their full potential. Teachers constantly reflect, is everyone included? And have activities been adjusted to include everyone? This ensures that planning meets the needs of every student. This is what I can do, and this is where I'm heading. It's so important to know that for every student, no matter where they sit on the learning continuum. School leaders need to be open to change and adopt what's going to meet the needs of everyone and build the capacity of all students. Some time ago, I think it was 2022, during school council, we had one school councillor say, can you just explain to us why we're teaching Japanese? And I thought, what a very good question. Why are we teaching Japanese? We agreed collectively as a group of schools that fed into our local secondary college that we would teach Japanese because we had lots and lots of Japanese tourists and we felt that our kids might chat to some Japanese people one day. that was the thinking back then. That was before I was principal. I have to have that. So it was a really good question. So we decided that what we might do is survey our parents, because the question was raised, why can't we teach sign language? So we surveyed our parents and said, hands up for Japanese, hands up for teaching sign language. Not hands up again, not figuratively speaking, not literally speaking. And the survey came back with an overwhelming response to teach sign language, sorry. Then we decided we better see what the kids are thinking, and we better see what the rest of the staff were thinking. And the three key stakeholders in our community, parents, teachers and children, were all aligned in their thinking. So we decided that that was the pathway that we were going to go down. And so we changed, and we now teach not Auslan, because we can't get an Auslan teacher, but we teach keyword sign, which sometimes the planets align. We have an education support staff member who is studying speech therapy at uni. She came flying into my office one day and said, oh, we just did the most fantastic course, keyword sign, crazy version of Auslan. 3 hours, it's just, this is what it can do. And straight away I went beyond hearing impaired students to kids with a receptive, expressive language problem, kids who are on the spectrum ASD. There are so many kids who just need that extra visual clue to their learning. It was seen as a huge addition to, you know, the what we could offer our kids. So that was the pathway we went down, and Emily, who's studying speech therapy, became our keyword sign instructor, and it was it's fantastic to watch the kids signing across the playground, in class, teachers using signing to support the learning in sign. I'm still waiting to see when the swear words happen. I'm sure they'll come. Well, Kelly, no, not yet. No, not yet. So Kelly just reminded me on Friday, one of our only student now with Down syndrome, Ollie, Kylie's son, came to Kelly's door, too many K words, Kelly's door on Friday just prior to assembly, and he decided that he would knock on Kelly's door, and he was with another student. Prior to us having keyword sign, you would have spoken to the other student, not to Ollie. But Kelly communicated to Ollie about, I'm not going to do it. I've got rheumatoid arthritis. The kids love me because that's my fist. Yeah, I know. So I tried keyword signs. I tried to sign, but Ollie would just look at me and go, what is she trying to do? So Kelly was able to sign to Ollie, what are you doing? And he was able to say, assembly, I need to go to assembly. So proof is in the pudding, I think, when things like that happen. We also have a cultural exchange program to Arnhem Land. We've been going up there for 30 years, and we host students from Yolngu people from Ramingining. They come and stay with us, and then we send kids up to their community. So, as I said, sometimes the planets align. We had just a random visitor pop into school a few weeks ago now, probably 6 weeks ago, and say, I've just been gifted this book. It's Yolngu Martha, which is the language of our mob in Arnhem Land, and they've been practicing sign language for tens of thousands of years. I didn't know this, and they would use sign language when they were out hunting, certain secret men's business, ceremonies or rituals when absence of voice was necessary. So they have their own set of signs to use. So this book is just full of Yolngu Martha signs. So we're going to use that as an extra addition to the sign language that we teach, so that we're trying to, broaden the experiences for the kids. Consistency of practice is also essential. We have lots of non-negotiable practices, and that's a critical ingredient in maintaining and building an inclusive culture. So one of our very first things that we do in the morning is circle time, and that is also prefaced with an acknowledgement of country. So that happens in every class every morning. All staff engaged in trauma PD, and we all did the Berry Street modules, and they underpin a substantial amount of work that we do to support all students. Once again, there are many non-negotiable practices which we use to help students regulate behaviours, equip teachers with a substantial number of strategies such as ready-to-learn plans, regular brain breaks that are designed to recenter a student for learning, check-ins after breaks. We talk about catastrophe scales across the school, visual cues, dedicated mindfulness sessions. I'm not sure if anybody's done Berry Street, but, you know, that has had a huge impact on the work that we do in building an inclusive environment. All classrooms have supplies of sensory and self-regulation resources, rockers, spinning stools, fidgets, squeezy toys, weighted toys, blankets. Whole school approaches extend to managing discipline and the restoration of relationships between children. A key feature of our approach is sitting down with the students, unpacking what went wrong and what damage was done to the relationship and how that can be restored. The situation becomes a learning experience and an opportunity to develop social skills. It's important, as was earlier mentioned, to identify the possible triggers and develop steps to mitigate the risks. Desired behaviours are acknowledged, praised and reinforced, and this also is critical to building that calm, inclusive environment. Last year we employed a mental health lead to support students, particularly in developing healthy social interactions and self-regulatory behaviours. The model of practice is supported by fortnightly meetings with a psychoanalyst who provides the wellbeing team with very learned advice to manage students who are having social issues. This model has had a positive effect and ensured students are understood and widened their friendship circle and, more importantly, included. We have 5 school values, and my favourite is getting along. All the kids know that one. What's Mrs. Boucher's favourite? Getting along. This value applies to the whole school community. It applies to teachers working in teams, our relationship with the parent community, or our students in the playground or in the classroom. We all need to understand one another, appreciate each other, understand differences and not see differences as a negative, but rather as a positive. Ro O'Dwyer, who's over there, is the Education Manager of Down Syndrome Victoria. So in a PD delivered to our staff last year, she shared the following. Inclusive education means that all students attend and are welcomed in their local educational setting and are supported to learn, contribute and participated in all aspects of that context. I think that just sums up what inclusiveness is, and I believe it sums up the work that we do at our school. I hope that in some small way there'll be one little takeaway from what I've shared with you. I know I haven't got a PowerPoint. I deliberately didn't do a PowerPoint. It's not because I'm a fossil. The staff would say that. They call me Foss. Yeah, but I call them lots of things too. However, if anybody is interested, I'm more than happy to share what I've typed up. If it can be of use, you're more than welcome to it. But just in closing, I would like to acknowledge, I've got, as I said, there are 3 staff members here. So put your hand up. See, Kelly and Yoris, they're over there. Hello. Yeah. It's these guys that are at the coalface. They're the ones that every day, they come to work with their colleagues. It's not just these 3, otherwise I get big heads. But it's the the rest of the team, they represent who we are, and every day they practice inclusiveness, and they just do. Their hearts are in the job, they love their job, the passion's there, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that they do. I just come up with some crazy ideas, they come up with even crazier ideas, and together we just make it work. Why? For our kids, because that's why we're there. Thank you.